Hey folks, welcome back to Only the Best Fantasy Novels. My name is Robin, and today I want to talk about A Local Habitation by Seanan McGuire. This is the second book in her October Day series, and this is the second book that this series just continues to impress me with with the creativity and imagination that's baked into this. Like honestly, when I picked up this series, I picked it up just wanting like a generic urban fantasy Dresden Clone kind of story. You know, that kind of pulpy action adventure with all the usual tropes that we see just littered all over the genre. I wasn't really expecting something of this caliber, and I'm happy to be disappointed because this series is doing. I'm getting way more than a bargain for it in all the best ways. Is pretty much the best way to put it. So, what is A Local Habitation about? So, October Day, Night of Shadowed Hills, and the protagonist who we follow through these books. She avoids dealing with Faerie as much as possible, but every now and then something happens and she finds herself in a situation that she just can't avoid. One such case being what happened recently in this book, where her liege lord summons her to help him, and she has no choice but to answer that call. So and that's how she finds herself headed out to another territory, essentially to check in on his niece, who he hasn't heard from in some time. And when she and what should have been like a simple errand quickly becomes that much more when she arrives to find multiple dead bodies and bodies that were dropped in a very strange, very inexplicable way, and a situation that's rapidly evolving, and it's now a race against the clock, because if she doesn't figure this out very soon, pretty much everyone's going to be dead. So that's kind of that's kind of the gist of the story. It is very much a murder mystery, a very very strange murder mystery, and the thing that stood out for me in this book is that this is the second book in the series, and Seanan McGuire already decided to take a big swing in a very interesting, very creative direction with the story. Like the the setting and the general the general vibe and everything of this particular book is very different from what you would expect going into it. It was very interesting to read, and it has some of the most. It has a very creative interpretation of Faerie, to one of the most creative interpretations of Faerie, I should say, to date. This is very much a more modern take on it. Might be the best way to put it without actually giving any spoilers. Like this entire situation, it creates a scenario where Toby can't just simply use magic to like figure out what's going on, and because of that, and this is how the book kind of flowed for the majority of it. Like what ended up happening is that we were kind of spinning wheels for the majority of it, just trying to even understand the general concept of what's happening here, even as bodies just drop left and right. We were trying to understand the unique nature of this fiefdom that she's in. We were trying to understand the different characters who are very much part of this fiefdom and the way they interact with each other, because as people drop, the possible motives and the possible suspects and all of that, it shifts and changes at every turn, and the behavior of some of these people is very inexplicable. It's very let's say if you work in a modern working environment, especially in a tech company, you would kind of appreciate what you're seeing here a bit more than most. But yeah, it's very it took a while for her to kind of understand the strange dynamics of this fiefdom, and that's what a large part of the book is spent on us. Just kind of understanding the situation and just getting our foot on this, even as these random bodies keep turning. Well, not random bodies, but like people just keep dying, and Toby's trying to understand what the hell is going on here, essentially. So that's the vast majority of the book. Because of that, it kind of feels a bit different from a regular urban fantasy kind of action adventure story. This is very much more on the slow burn murder mystery side, is the best way to put it. Like there's there's some action that happens here and there, but for the most part, it's very much a whodunit, which is a dramatic shift from what played out in the first book. So yeah, that's kind of that. All that being said, like, setting aside the structure of the fiefdom and the way it works and all of that, Seanan McGuire takes the opportunity to just kind of just drive home some of the cool aspects of the world building that she baked right into this entire story from the very first book. Like, we get in addition to the unique twist on Faerie, we get some introduction into like some more of the species, and with the intermix of these different species of Faerie and this kind of thing, we get some heavier elements like bigotry and classism and these kind of things that come into play. One thing I neglected to mention in my talk on the first book is that you know, this setting, like this overall story is very much it happens in San Francisco, and the human element of living in San Francisco is very prominent in that first book, and it kind of crops up here as well, where Toby has to deal with very modern day concerns like explosive rent, wage slave labor, that kind of thing. So like all of these things are very much a part of our world. It's not just sunshine and daisies. And speaking of not just sunshine and daisies, one of the elements of Faerie that this book decides to really hone in on is the horror element. Like, it's one of my favorite aspects of reading Faerie stories. The way that horror comes across in such a... The way that horror is often incorporated in such a fantastical way, and that's what happens in this book. Like, the horror is very much dialed up. It goes hand in hand with the whole slow burn whodunit murder mystery element to it. Like, it was just really well done overall. Honestly, aside from that, it's not much else to report. Like, this is very much a standalone installment in the series. It's the second book, so that can be expected. It's its own thing. We get, aside from the characters who were introduced here, well, the ones who survive at least, you know, we get introduced to some more cast members who have... They have strong potential of being recurring, or if not recurring characters, at least people who we will see again in the future. As is always the case in these books, you know, we get we get a slow evolution of some of the dynamics of some of these, like some characters who were introduced in book one. We start to see like some of the relationships and some of the ways that they acted in here, and some of the steps that were taken. You begin to see the formation of bonds and the transition. And to see these relationships transition into... You can tell that there's going to be more of them in the future. Maybe in cool ways, maybe not. We'll just have to read and find out. But yeah, that's kind of my take on A Local Habitation. A very solid, very fun installment in the series, and one that has me even more excited to just continue reading it and see what Seanan McGuire has in store for us as this progresses. Yeah. That's pretty much it. If you've made it this far in that video, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.